And the
It will
Supreme Leader
still be more expensive.
He'll come to New
It will
York.
be more expensive.
No.
Absolutely it would be.
We won't buy it from there.
Wait,
What do you mean we won't buy it from there?
Donald Trump's economic plan just triggered one of the most chaotic live debates CNN has seen in weeks. What started as a conversation about tariffs quickly turned into a full-blown shouting match over inflation, China, immigration, and whether Trump actually understands how the economy works. Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary tried defending Trump's aggressive tariff strategy, but the moment economic analysts started breaking down what those tariffs would really do to American consumers, the entire panel exploded into disagreement. And the craziest part? Even Kevin O'Leary accidentally admitted something Trump supporters never want to hear out loud. Tariffs don't punish China first. They punish Americans paying higher prices. That single moment completely shifted the debate, and from there, everything spiraled out of control live on air.
I don't really understand why he keeps going back to this well of more and more and more tariffs.
Let me explain why. Let's take China. Let's take an example that every American understands, TikTok. Everybody knows TikTok. American people made a decision in Congress to ban it on midnight, Jan 19th. The Supreme Leader of China said, no, we're going to use your court systems to litigate the American people so that doesn't happen. I can't do that in China. The Supreme Leader would never let me do that. I can't protect my IP there. Chinese have been screwing my 45 businesses for 35 years. I like the idea of going to war with China with tariffs to change behavior.
But it didn't change behavior. All it did was hurt American
we've had
companies.
Weak leadership that doesn't know how to implement.
This is the same leadership. It was Trump who
it
launched
started
the
with
trade
Biden,
war with.
Then it was Clinton saying, let's democratize China, let's show them democracy, and they'll play fair in the they'll play fair in the
But to Catherine's point,
it's time to raise tariffs at China to 400%.
Hang on a second.
Trump already raised tariffs on China.
Not enough.
There have been many studies showing that U.S. companies and consumers are the ones who bore the cost.
Academic study. I'm doing real business in China. I'm actually doing business there.
Yeah.
I'm actually working
American
there. There's no academics in my company.
Where do you think they buy their inputs from?
Let me explain something to you.
From China.
The Chinese steal my IP. They make the same product with the molds that I pay for there. They ship them into this country under a different brand. I don't like it anymore, and I've been trying to solve this for 30 years.
If you tariff everything from China,
there's no
60%,
academic in my world.
You're going to be paying more for the stuff you buy. You're going to be paying more for the stuff you buy. They knew even in the 1600s that you should not tariff inputs.
Kevin,
let's just take a yoga mat.
Every American.
Put a 400% tariff on a yoga mat. We'll make it in Vietnam or make it in India or make it in America. We won't buy anything from China.
This was the first major crack in Kevin O'Leary's argument, and honestly, it completely changed the energy of the debate. Because up until this moment, the conversation was framed like tariffs were some kind of economic weapon against China. But the second he admitted Americans would end up paying more, the entire narrative started collapsing. That's the thing about tariffs that a lot of politicians avoid explaining clearly. People hear tariffs on China and imagine China writing a giant check to the United States government. But that's not how it works. American importers pay those tariffs first, and then businesses usually pass those costs directly onto consumers through higher prices. So suddenly the panel wasn't debating whether China was unfair anymore. They were debating whether American families should pay more at the store just to prove a political point. And that's why the analysts immediately jumped in. Because once Kevin admitted prices would rise, it became much harder to defend Trump's economic plan as anti-inflation. You could actually feel the frustration building on the panel because every time someone tried explaining how tariffs affect consumers, the conversation would shift back into political messaging instead of economic reality. That's why the host finally snapped and said this always happens when discussing Trump and the economy. The panel kept defending a completely different policy than the one Trump himself was describing publicly. And honestly, that became the central tension of the entire segment.
And the
it will
Supreme
still
Leader
be more expensive.
He'll come to New
York.
York.
It will be more expensive.
No.
Absolutely it would be.
We won't buy it from there.
Wait,
what do you mean we won't buy it from there?
Hold on 1 second, because I get the
Why
back
are you
and
raising
forth,
the price?
But Kevin, you're having a different. This is always what happens when we talk about Trump and the economy. People come on here.
Trump.
Hang on. No. Just hang on. People come on the show, and then they defend a different economic policy than the one that Trump is advocating. He says in the clip, "What am I going to do? Negotiate with China or Mexico?" He doesn't want to negotiate. He says you're not going to get anything from them. Okay, that's what he says. He does not want to negotiate. Also, the question I asked you is, where is the rest of the plan? Where is the rest of the economic plan?
Well, why don't you just look at his track record for the last, the term that he had? No inflation, fantastic wage growth. I mean, look, he actually sat in the seat at the White House.
2020.
You may not like what he did,
President
you may not like
Trump
him,
was president in 2020.
but I don't remember 9% inflation when he was around.
I remember 18% unemployment. I mean, I remember...
What happened when that was going on?
A pandemic that he bungled.
Are you saying he created the virus?
No, but he absolutely made it worse.
How?
By lying about the risk, by telling people not to get tested. Don't get tested.
You're saying he should have personally cured the virus as the president?
No, I'm saying he should have given his tests to Americans rather than to
She did not say that. I mean, but Scott, okay.
I'm sorry. This idea that somehow because Trump was the president that the virus has political proclivities and decided to prolong itself has been crazy to me since it's been floated.
You don't think leadership mattered at all?
The virus? No, I don't actually.
You don't?
I don't believe the virus.
You don't think it matters? You don't think it matters that Trump withheld various kinds of testing kits and PPE from states that were asking for it, and then he told them to go buy it themselves,
and then you think that was the masks? Is that what you think?
And then he outbid them for it, so they couldn't buy it. And then he sent it to Putin.
No, I was talking about virus.
I do want to get back to the economic.
I mean, you are implicitly by pretending it didn't happen.
Republicans keep saying that this election is about the economy. Now, I guess it's maybe also about immigration, but it is about the economy when you ask voters. And again, I'm wondering, what else is Trump planning on doing, and can he articulate it?
Well, to me, I think it's a great question, and it needs to be fleshed out. I think we should probably play the clip, though, of Harris from the Chicago Economic Club do we not have it? Because she didn't show up to talk. So here's what I think. He's going to extend the tax cuts. He's going to rein in the federal government and the overburdensome regulatory state, which he can now do because of the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. And he's going to take on these countries that screw American workers. That's the plan. And by the way, he's going to crack down on immigration to the benefit of American workers.
He's going to deport 20 million people, the people who pick your crops, the people who process your meat, the people who, care for your grandmother, the people who serve all sorts of critical functions in this country. Yeah, he's going to deport a lot of people, and that's going to worsen the economy. In fact, there have been, a dozen different independent economic analyses from Goldman Sachs, AEI, Brookings, Nomura, Peterson Institute. All of them
I know your argument. If you want to run on more illegal immigration as a Democrat, go ahead. I just don't think it's going to work in the election.
He wants to deport 20 million. I'm not done with his. I know what his economic policy is because he has talked about it. He doesn't understand how any of it would work, but he has talked about it. He wants 10% global tariffs, which would worsen inflation. Mm-hmm. He wants to deport 20 million people, which would worsen inflation and reduce growth.
This is where the debate stopped being theoretical and became politically dangerous for Trump supporters. Because the analysts started listing policy after policy and connecting all of them directly to inflation tariffs, mass deportations, pressure on the Federal Reserve, even weakening the dollar. And suddenly, Kevin O'Leary looked stuck in an impossible position. On one hand, he clearly wanted to defend Trump's broader America First message. But on the other hand, he also understands business and global supply chains better than most political commentators. That's why throughout the debate, he kept accidentally drifting into economic reality before pivoting back to politics. The most revealing part was when the analysts brought up deporting millions of workers. That completely widened the conversation beyond tariffs. Because whether people like hearing it or not, huge sections of agriculture, food processing, construction, and caregiving industries rely heavily on immigrant labor. So when analysts argued mass deportations would worsen inflation, they weren't just making a political statement, they were talking about labor shortages driving prices even higher. And then the conversation became absolute chaos. One side argued Trump's policies would finally force companies to manufacture in America again. The other side argued corporations would simply raise prices and move supply chains elsewhere instead of bringing factories back home. Kevin kept insisting China cheats the system, while the analysts kept responding that punishing consumers isn't a real economic strategy. By the end, the panel wasn't even debating tariffs anymore. They were debating two completely different visions of how the American economy should function. One based on aggressive economic nationalism, and the other based on global supply chains and market economics. That's why this discussion became so explosive live on air.
He wants to politicize the Federal Reserve, which would worsen inflation. He wants to devalue the dollar, which would worsen inflation.
And after all that,
all of these
half
things.
The American population wants that economy back. What do you say to that?
I say that we should be talking about what the policies are.
They're just too dumb to
very good.
understand.
It's all about messaging.
No, it's because we don't talk
Because a
about
lot of
it.
people don't understand, Kevin, what tariffs are. They see it as this great punishment to China that we're going to do. He says he's going to raise it up. He said today 2,000% tariffs on China. But here's the thing. It punishes the American importer. The Chinese are paid. Once you pay for those molds, the Chinese have put that money in their pocket, and then you are charged for the tariffs when you're
not
bringing
the
your
changes
molds
behavior.
in.
Let's
So,
talk about
and
great
then,
American
hold on,
company.
and just one
John
other point
Deere
that he said.
Moving back to
They didn't.
America.
But one other point.
They did
One
not.
other point.
They
John
did not
Deere
do
Another
that.
point is he says that that's going to incentivize people to come back. That's pie in the sky. If I give 2,000% tariffs on China, it's going to force all these people to come back. No, I'm for American jobs.
Do you know what-
And
do you know what-
that's
do you know what
why I
jobs
support.
Americans
That's
work
why I
in?
support Kamala Harris, and I supported President.
know what jobs
Biden
Americans
because
work
they brought manufacturing back when President Trump didn't. The tariffs that he's talking about is not going to incentivize anybody else to go, oh my goodness, I'm not going to want to pay those tariffs, so I'm going to build this plant here in America.
I actually agree with
it's
you
not
on tariffs
because
with their European allies, but
Yeah.
not with China, because unfortunately I live in the real world and not all of you are doing business China like I am. They cheat, they steal, they don't play by the
Well,
level
I don't
playing
think
field.
they-
Right, but yet you're
Are
doing
you going
business
to
there.
invest in a
But
business
yet you're
that
doing
makes
business there.
nails? Are you going to invest in a business that makes all of the low-value inputs that we buy
I'm a
from
lowly
China?
businessman
No,
investing.
because they don't have any value add.
I
Do you,
took
do you
a
bel- do
greeting
you agree
card-
with the Biden tariffs on China?
No.
So
I've been very, very
so
critical
So
of
since
those.
Harris is running on that, how do you view the difference between their postures?
I think her tariffs, which are in fact a continuation of Biden tariffs, are dumb ideas. I think that we have lots of evidence showing that Americans pay those.
What made this CNN debate so fascinating wasn't just the yelling or interruptions, it was watching business reality collide directly with political messaging in real time. Kevin O'Leary clearly believes China has taken advantage of America for decades, and a lot of voters agree with that frustration. But the analysts kept forcing the conversation back to one uncomfortable question. If tariffs raise prices for Americans, then who's really paying the cost? And that's exactly why Trump's economic plans continue dividing voters so intensely heading into the election. Supporters see strength and economic protectionism. Critics see inflation, labor shortages, and higher prices. But after this debate, one thing became obvious. Even Trump's defenders are struggling to explain how these policies would work without hurting consumers in the process.